So for my contribution today, I'm going to talk about Hagia Sophia as a political statement, or in a way as a series of political statements. On January 13, in the year 532, thousands assembled for important races in the Hippodrome of Constantinople, right here. The stadium held as many as 100,000 people. That day, a riot broke out and threatened the nearby Great Palace of the Byzantine Emperors, this whole area here. The rioters burned down the city's cathedral, known as Hagia Sophia, which was over here, and threatened the nearby palace. As they raced through the streets of Constantinople, the rioters shouted "Nika," victory, and consequently this urban unrest has been called the Nika riot. The Emperor Justinian thought of fleeing the city, but he rallied his forces instead and sent the imperial troops into the Hippodrome. The rioters were trapped at its circular inn, where it's built out on a very high artificial foundation. There was therefore no possibility of, well, if you jump from here, you die. There's no possibility of escape once they were pinned down at the circular end. On that day, 30,000 people were killed there by the imperial troops. While Justinian kept his throne, the vital symbolic core of Constantinople was destroyed. Justinian responded by authorizing a massive rebuilding campaign for Hagia Sophia that produced a new cathedral in only 4 years, an unprecedented short period of time for that time and that stage of technology. The result was the largest dome building in the world until the 16th century. Some might read the giant structure, here seen from the east, as an expression of Justinian's great power. But in fact, it resulted from the emperor's profound weakness. As a political statement, the building compensated for Justinian's poor management of the empire. Its size and magnificence masked the lamentable state of affairs in Constantinople in those years. After the Ottomans conquered Constantinople in May 1453, the victorious troops sacked the city, as was the fate of any city that did not surrender to Islam. After a few days, their leader, Mehmet II, rode into the city and still on horseback, right into the cathedral that was being pillaged. He stopped the destruction because this was to be his mosque, the first imperial mosque in what would become Istanbul, the capital of the Ottoman Empire. 6 years later, he built his palace north of that mosque, the Topkapi Saray, just as the Byzantine palace, the great palace of the Byzantine emperors, had been located just south of Hagia Sophia in this region here. Unlike Justinian's Hagia Sophia, Mehmet's Ayasofya was a true expression of the power and prestige of the victorious Sultan. In the 17th century, a later Sultan, Sultan Ahmet, built a new mosque near Hagia Sophia, and it's popularly known as the Blue Mosque over here. Hagia Sophia is here. At the time, critics of the Sultan noted that the area already had a large mosque, namely Ayasofya, and did not need another one. Moreover, the multiple minarets of the Mosque of Sultan Ahmet were supposed to be reserved for mosques built after a great triumph, as in the case, for example, of Istanbul's greatest mosque, the Süleymaniye. which was erected at the height of the Ottoman Empire in the mid-16th century. But during the reign of Sultan Ahmed, the Ottoman Empire had begun its long decline. Critics said that the mosque was not needed because at that time, few Muslims lived in the area near the Mosque of Sultan Ahmed, down toward the sea. In this case, then, the Sultan Ahmed Mosque can be read as compensation for the weakness of the Ottoman state, akin to the strategy that the Emperor Justinian employed centuries earlier. Fast forwarding to the 20th and 21st centuries, the Turkish Council of Ministers in 1934 declared that the Mosque of Ayasofya would become a museum, according to the proclamation that you see the upper text on the screen now. This was an aesthetic as well as a political act, for the council declared the building to be a, quote, unique architectural monument of art, unquote. The European category of art entailed the denial of the functional use of an object or structure. Thus, designating the mosque as a museum negated its religious function, and the building would become a museum where the Byzantine mosaics we just got through seeing would be appreciated as if they were on the walls of a museum of fine arts. President Erdogan's proclamation last July returned the building to a prior function, not, of course, to the purpose for which it was built, that is, a Christian church, because Sultan Mehmet had appropriated the building to be his imperial mosque. Note that President Erdogan does not refer to the Sultan as Mehmet II, as is standard for historians, but as Mehmet the Conqueror. A few days before at that time, in early July, an imam in the now Mosque of Ayasofya read what was known as the victory or conquest chapter of the Quran, the Fath. The root of that word is the same word used to describe Sultan Mehmet as conqueror. Common to the name of the surah, the chapter of the Quran, and the Sultan is the word victory, which ironically was what those rioters shouted in a different language in the time of Justinian. The proclamation of Ataturk and Erdogan both affirm that Hagia Sophia belongs to all humanity. But President Erdogan says nothing about the artistic significance of the building. He emphasizes that it will again serve, quote, its purpose, and will embrace for everyone for all time in a more sincere and unique way. As a mosque, the building will be more secure, according to the president, than it was more sincere than it was as a museum. What type of political statements are the proclamations of Presidents Ataturk and Erdogan? For Ataturk, the conversion of the mosque was a demonstration of power because it was part of his dissolution of the Ottoman Empire and his profound westernization of Turkey. Ataturk got to this position by driving the invading Greek forces out of Turkey and ending the Western control of Istanbul. In regards to the Mosque of Ayasofya, Ataturk acted from a position of great power in the tradition of Mehmet II. Here I show President Erdogan at the first Friday prayer in the newly reconstituted Mosque of Ayasofya. President Erdogan's action was not dictated by the need of another mosque in this part of Istanbul. For Sultan Ahmet, the Mosque of Sultan Ahmet was more than sufficient for that purpose. And now, today, even fewer Muslims live in an area that has been filled with tourist hotels and rug shops. President Erdogan did not act from a position of power. For today, Turkey has been suffering an economic decline since 2018. The present year, the pandemic of COVID-19 has hastened that decline. According to the Financial Times, the gross national product of Turkey shrank 11% in the second quarter of this year, and the Turkish lira continues to fall against the US dollar in spite of the government spending of hundreds of millions of dollars of its precious dollar reserves to prop up the lira. President Erdogan's reconversion of Ayasofya thus resembles Sultan Ahmet's building of the mosque and the Emperor's Justinian's erection of the building in the first place. It compensates for other problems in the Turkish Republic. Thank you.